Hello,
Hello there.
you see me? Hello there.
I can see you.
Okay, your place looks very. Oh, is that a background? It looks very gothic.
That is the background. I'm sat in my Gothic mansion to interview you.
Okay.
Go to view at the top and then do multi-speaker,
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
do technical support,
Because then I can sort of check my hair and stuff and make sure everything's okay.
of
See,
course, of
Mm,
course.
you know, you like my hair look? I'm going for the lesbian feminist look on the
You
side.
nice look.
Anyway, so how are you?
Fine.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Well, thank you for waiting.
you didn't make me wait too long. Have you interviewed people before, Moni?
I have, yes. So,
Who?
are we, well, let me do my thing. Okay. Can I just
Okay.
start and then I'll go into it? Okay. So,
Mhm.
for those of you who don't know me, I am Moni, or by my stage name, Moni Lisa Poet. And that's not a shameless plug for my poetry, but if you're interested, go and have a look. Um, so I'm a friend and a fan of Area 54, circa like 2000, perhaps, definitely during the No Visible Scars era, and Futile Dream, my favorite track. We're going to talk about that a bit later. So anyway, just a little bit about me. So I got introduced to Area 54 through Laura. I went to school with Laura, and it's actually quite embarrassing. We were both in the school orchestra and played cello, but we were both into metal music, and it was just really, really exciting when she joined Area 54. And then since then, we sort of just been supporting you guys on your journey. And also, a funny story is that Jeremy, one of your former band members, his dad was my music teacher at school. So, when we started going to the gigs and seeing you guys, every time I'd go to school the next day, Mr. Gray would say, "Have you seen my son Jeremy lately?" Because he was from Newcastle, he was a Geordie. And I was like, actually, I did. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, just sort of been friends ever since. As I mentioned, Futile Dream was one of my favorite songs. I started looking for it like a year ago because I thought, oh, I was having that nostalgic moment, and I was like, I really want to hear that track. And Googled online. I was like, because I lost the CD that I had, which was really sad about. And then I found the page, the social media page that you put up, and seen all this cool Area 54 stuff, nostalgia and pictures and videos. And I followed you, and then you sent me the Futile Dream track, and the rest is history. And here we are today. And I'm about to interview you. So yeah, that's it really. I used to actually interview bands for an online metal fanzine back in the early 2000s. And I used to go and review like the gig performances and interview the bands. And yeah, it was really, really good. So it's actually kind of full circle now that I'm here talking to you and interviewing you, and just, consider me the modern day Vanessa Warwick from Headbangers Ball.
She's cool, she is. So that's not a bad thing to aspire to be if you're talking to bands.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Okay, so can you name a couple of bands that I might know that you've interviewed?
Um, they weren't that well known at the time. So there was a band called Linea 77. They were
Oh yeah,
from
I
Italy.
remember. Oh no, I'm thinking of Breed 77. There was a
You
Linear as
think Breed
well.
77, yeah. Linea 77, Vacant Stare, Lost Prophets,
Hmm.
he who must not be named. Yeah, just kind of up and coming aspiring bands. Um, Sepultura, that was good at the London Astoria. So thank you wherever you are, Trotters Rock, for giving me free guest list tickets. And I always used to be on the guest list and get in for free because I was interviewing the bands and writing reviews. So that was really cool.
Brothers Rock, I remember that. What was the guy's name?
You,
Yeah, what was the guy's
I
name
can't,
who ran it?
I can't
Nigel. Was it
remember.
Nigel?
Nigel, you've got a good memory. Nigel Roberts or something.
Yeah, I really liked him. I like him.
Oh, you did. Oh, you knew
Yeah,
him.
I
Nice.
thought
Yeah, yeah,
I thought
yeah.
he was
So I used to
lovely.
work for him. Yeah.
I tried to do a thing for him once years ago. He asked me to do something, and I was obviously, you remember back then I was it showed in the lyrics I was struggling with life and stuff. And I tried to do this thing for him. And when I listened back to it, I just sounded like a robot. And
Mm,
um, sent it to him anyway because it's the best I could do. I was just struggling, but like trying to be professional. It's like I didn't want to be the one who's like, I can't do it today. I promised him. So I did the thing I said I would do and sent it to him. So I recorded all the bits. And
yeah.
it was so bad. He pretended that the thing got chewed up or something. I think he pretended. But I'm speaking for him. It's just I think he wanted to be polite and say this was fucking awful.
Yeah.
You can't use it. And he was being nice to me because we always got on really well. And I was too embarrassed to say I didn't know how to say to people back then. I mean lyrically it showed, but I couldn't say outside. I'm struggling with depression and I'm trying to maintain a band here. So he sort of made some excuse and then I kind of knew, but I just never said anything, and we kind of left it like that. But he was a lovely. I'm sure he is still a lovely chap. I liked.
Yeah. No, he was great to work with and really well connected, and especially for like back in the day, before social media and
Mm.
um we used to buy like Metal Hammer and things like that, and that was our social media, wasn't it, back then? So, yeah, it was a really nice, cool time actually, and so it's quite nice for me to kind of visit 54 because it brings back a bit of that nostalgia, yeah, and that era really.
It was
So,
special. I don't think we realised at the time. Like you never realise at the time, but it was you like going to Camden was special. It's not anymore.
mm,
It just changed. It used to be very rock and alternative. Now it's at least the last time I went, it was really the vibe, the whole flow of the place had changed,
yeah,
and
it has, yeah,
just you don't realize it, but we lived in a real golden era of all of that. And I wish I was a
yeah.
little bit happier that I could have enjoyed it more at the time.
Yeah, well, you don't realize at the time, do you? So, we can enjoy the time now because there's exciting things coming up ahead. So,
Hmm.
congratulations on the announcement of 54 coming back and working on new material. So just tell me why now then, after all this time?
I don't want to get too deep because it starts in a dark place. But basically, in 2024, somewhere in the first half, some things took place that were not good, very dark. And around May 2024, it was very odd actually. I was walking down the street, listening to something in my headphones, and for some reason, I remembered this little thing I used to play on a guitar. It wasn't a song. It was just a little piece that I used to play when I was back in the Rob Hillman, Steve Martin, and Laura era. Um, we had a studio called Wicton, it was. I guess Steve was the guy who ran it, but it was our studio. We all sort of paid into it and everything, and we had three rooms there, and there was like a rehearsal room, a sort of room to keep stuff, and there was this chill out room. I got such fond memories of all those years uh, rehearsing there. It was amazing, and there was this thing that back then I used to. Sometimes when we would take a break, people would want to have a smoke or whatever, and sometimes I'd stay in the room a bit longer and I'd play this little tune on the guitar, or sometimes I'd leave the chill out room and go back into the rehearsal room a bit before everyone, and I'd play this thing every now and then. And I did it on and off for years. And for some reason, in my darkest moment, that tune kept coming back to me while I was walking down the street. And I hadn't thought about it for years and years and years.
Mm,
Then it kind of happened again, and I thought, it's fucking weird. So I came home
mm.
one day and I found one of the guitars I hadn't sold because I sold loads of my stuff because I thought I was done, completely done. And I just played it here. And I thought, this is weird. Why am I doing this now? I started messing around with it. And that was the seed that made it come to where it is now. A couple of weeks later, Laura messaged me, and we hadn't spoken for quite a while. She sent me a few WhatsApp messages, and I sent a few back. And then said, should we have a chat? And we had a chat. 54 came up, and I said to her, I've been thinking about maybe just putting the stuff out on Spotify and stuff. So because it's obviously in all these years, everything's changed, and 54 is nowhere to be seen digitally.
Yes,
What
I
do you
know.
think? Yeah, and I said, what do you think? And she was like, that would be great. And I said, so you think it'd be a good idea? And she said, yeah, why shouldn't we? And all that. And I said, okay. And we started chatting more, like week in, week out. I didn't tell her I was in a dark place. I was just chatting to her and all that. And then um, at some point, I said to her, "Well, if we're going to do this, like if we're going to do this, I'll have a chance to remix and re try and fix No Visible Scars because we were always so unhappy after what Mike Blackhorn did and the record label. And I said, I've got a chance to fix it. Maybe I can fix that along the way. So I looked at the Fear Inside EP, which is one I did with Jeremy, and I kind of gave it a little polish. I didn't do much. I just gave it a little polish and I put that out on Spotify. And then I started looking at No Visible Scars and we went and got the reels baked because it was on 499 reels at the time. And I realized that was going to be a long process. So it hasn't happened yet, but it's coming. And I haven't released the other stuff because it's after that era. But while we were discussing all this, I said, should we just do a couple of new songs that we can put them out at the I wasn't sure where. I thought maybe like when we release No Visible Scars, we could put a couple of new ones out. She said that would be great. I've been thinking I really need something like this. And I said, okay, so should we do a song or two? And she said, yeah. And really, that's how it started. And then as I started figuring out, well, what shall I send her? Because obviously I've recorded little ideas over the years. I thought I came home and I started going through stuff and finding little clips, a cool riff or half a song. And I thought, what should I send her? And I sent her something, and she said she liked it, and then somehow it started turning into, should we just do a little EP, like 5 songs? And then at some point, Jeremy got involved too, and it just evolved into, should we just do a fucking album? This is ridiculous. It was 4 songs, 5 songs, 6 songs. I said, why don't we just aim to do an album? We can do it. It's not impossible. And everyone said yeah. And Jeremy joined the band again at that time. So I sent Laura a couple of bits. And I sent Jeremy. Jeremy was the one where I thought I really need to make sure he's on board because I love Jeremy, but he's very fickle and he changes his mind very easily. And just because he says, yes, I'll join the band, tomorrow it's like, some world event happens for him in his head. And then it's like, you know, he starts backing out of things he said. I tried to treat Jeremy with kid gloves. I wanted to make sure he was really happy. I could say Laura anything, and there's 99% chance she'll just say, yeah, I'll do all of it. But Jeremy's
Yeah.
very fun, and like I wanted to offer him the chance to shape the album how he wanted. I said, why don't I send you a bunch of stuff and you can just say yes, no, yes, no, yes. So I sent him like little clips and he said yes, 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 no, no, yes, no. And I said, okay, well, you've picked like a handful of ideas. I didn't realize I was going to write anything new at the time. I said, look, we'll make these into songs then. And basically, Adrian got in touch with me again, and I said to Jeremy, I said, you're not going to believe this, but I've heard from Adrian. And I said to him, obviously, I haven't spoken to him. I don't know if we're going to get on or anything. However, if we do get on, and I hope we do, I'd like to offer him the opportunity to be involved on the album somehow. I was trying to say to Jeremy, like, obviously, I want him involved if he wants to put a solo down, a couple of solos. If we get on, I'm going to offer him that because that's the whole idea of this. It's not about holding grudges or anything. It's about healing in a way and mending things. And Jeremy sent me a strange message back saying, I'm glad, almost like I'm glad I can't remember the words, but I'm glad he's back in the band. And Jeremy just kind of
Mm,
fizzled out of it. And I just thought, what the fuck? That was very,
okay.
very strange. And I got quite annoyed with Jeremy and I didn't talk to him for several months because I said to him, if you join, do not let me down. I said it to all of them. Laura, you'll do a lot of damage. If you say you're coming, you fucking mean it. This isn't a dress rehearsal and this is my life.
Mm,
You know what's going on with me more than most people. And it's like people cannot fuck with that stuff. It's very important. So I was like, when you're adult enough to say to people, if you say yes, I'm taking it as your word is your bond and you can't go back on that. And Jeremy's like, he said, okay, I guess I'm back in 54. I went, great, and all that. But then as soon as Adrian came back on board, and it wasn't because of Adrian, well, I don't think it was because of Adrian, because he wouldn't mind Adrian being involved, but he just jumped off. And I didn't realize at the time he jumped off. And then it just turned into this thing where Adrian became the guitarist and Jeremy became not the guitarist. In a good place. And I've said to him, when it comes time, you're welcome. You should be on it somewhere, whether it's vocals or backing vocals or you play rhythm on one of the tracks, something. I want him involved. Whether that happens or not will depend on Jeremy, his state of mind and his, how he feels. But he's welcome. He's welcome to be on it.
That's really nice. I
That's
mean,
a long answer.
it was. That's all right. I think it's important to have that history and talk about that because actually Area 54 has sort of gone through, well, the ages really. So when you've had different lineups, haven't you? So you've had Adrian, who I guess what would you describe as a bit more of a rocker, and then you had Jeremy, who's like very death, and then Rob was just like heavy, and so it's kind of like transitioned, hasn't it, along the way?
Well, yeah, you're right. Jeremy was like the death metal guy, and he brought that kind of a little bit. He brought that carcassy vibe in with the face of all your fears and things like that, you know, which had some death metal vocals on. But we did meet in the middle, stuff like Overload and which was co-written. It worked really well. So he was able to write that kind of melodic Paradise Lost stuff. But then when he left and Adrian came in, well, obviously Dan Ford had gone too. Dan Ford and Rob were very different. So Rob came in and he was just constantly heavy. I loved it, by the way, but he was constantly heavy. But Adrian was more of a rocker than a metaler. So there was this kind of weird mix, which lots of people didn't like, to be honest. 54 was always in the middle of two things. It was like we were influenced by rock and metal, but I'd make the rock influences heavier or the metal influences lighter. And that's why 54 rubbed a lot of people the wrong way because like it wasn't
Yeah.
rocky. It was too heavy for rock or too light for metal, and people didn't really know a lot
Well,
of the
that's what I
time.
was going to ask you actually, because you've always maintained that Area 54 was between hard rock and heavy metal. So you were like almost a genre of your own.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I say to people in the last Embrace, there's actually a bit that I got influenced by um Harkus. People would be like, "Fuck off! How's that possible?" To listen to the song, but it's true. And Overload had Guns N' Roses influence. I took influence from Dissection, but no one will be able to know where it is. But these bands helped me write. So Adrian brought this kind of really cool proggy rock thing a little bit more,
Mm.
because he came, he looked up to John Petrucci and still does, I guess. But he came with a Dream Theater with Nothing Like Me. It's very hard to make that work, but looking back, it really worked. Neville's Scars is actually a great album. I like
Yeah.
it more now than I did then.
Okay.
Shame that the production and certain things let it down. Then after that, Steve was in the band and he replaced Adrian. Steve was clearly a metal guitarist. So we used that to our advantage. The picking got a bit more, in places. And we wrote that Beckoning of the End album, which is a strange album. I oddly like it, but it's a weird album. And and then went more bouncy. And that was because Steve started realizing there was he was right. There was a problem and we had to kind of address it. With Rob, where we were trying to help him understand where to groove and where to be where to do what he does best. He was just he didn't have the balance, and Steve said, "Let's write an album which will make him have to learn the balance." So if you listen to that song, we worked really hard to that album, worked really hard to make him sort of know where to groove and actually be more rocky when he had to be. Songs like Use of the Light, it's like he should be playing like Stephen Adler, but he's going in the kicks and stuff, and it just wasn't right. And to be fair to Rob, no one said anything. We all liked it at the time. It's just as we evolved. At the time, it didn't seem like Rob was doing it. And Steve said, we need to write bouncy stuff. And Steve started mentioning bands like Hoobastank, Linkin Park. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I've got no problem with any of this. I said, okay, let's try and write some stuff which will pull Rob in and he'll have to do this. And to
Mm.
Rob's credit, he did it really well on that album. His
Mm.
drumming on that album is spectacular. And
Wow. Yeah.
he finally became the drummer I wanted him to be once I felt like there was a bit of an issue. And yeah, couldn't, it's an amazing album. Everyone done fantastic on that. So, but it was rockier. It was rockier because that would help Rob. And I think the idea was when we do the next album, once Rob's got this, get the balance right for the first time. So when we
Mm.
go to the rock bits, Rob will be able to really take that on board. And when we do the metal bits, he can do what he does fantastically. So I think the next album would have been the best of both worlds, I think. Like the Nobles
Yeah.
Busgazi stuff and the heavier stuff from maybe Beckoning and you know. But it just wasn't to be. And now here we are with Adrian and Laura. So it's the Novice Buscus like Scars lineup, but with Dean having replaced Rob, and wow, it's a fucking great lineup. It
Yeah,
honestly, it's shockingly good. And
excellent. Yeah, that's really exciting actually. And I've got a little game for you. So if I say, so I'm going to name the Area 54 albums starting from the demo, and I want you to just, whatever one word comes to mind when I name those albums, for you to just describe. It can either describe the album or anything that is affiliated to it or how you feel about it. Just one word. Is that
it's
okay?
gonna
Does
be,
that make sense? I'm putting you on the
you said
spot.
I've got a big mouth. One word's gonna be hard. I'll try.
Well, this is why I'm doing it, to stop you having a big mouth.
I've got okay. This meeting will end in 10 minutes, so we'll start another one, obviously, in a bit. But
Okay,
just letting you know.
that's fine.
Okay, go for it.
Ready?
Hmm.
Okay. Fear Inside,
Um, adventurous.
Venturous. Okay. Uh, Bring Out Your Dead.
Wow, you've jumped from the first to the last. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to do it in order. Sorry, no, no, no. Fear Inside, No Visible Scars.
Um, tragic.
That's my favorite album.
No,
Beckoning
I'm
of,
not. No, when I say you're asking me how I feel about it, yeah, that era. Is
yeah,
that what you're
yeah.
asking me? Tragic,
Whatever you
because
want.
the reason I'm explaining because you said I like that album. It's not that I don't like the album. It's tragic what happened to us. And when we all listen to it, like we're all scarred. Rob was scarred from it. Laura is, and so am I. And that's why I'm saying
Yeah,
it's like I'm going to try and fix it as best I can and trying to heal it for all of them. But it's tragic because they took a young, optimistic band, that adventurous band from the Fear Inside, and they absolutely destroyed us.
yeah, yeah. That's really tough. This is so interesting, actually. So, okay, Beckoning of the End.
For me, it's life-saving. Is that two words?
Technically,
Therapy.
yeah.
It was my therapy.
Therapy.
So
Okay.
you could say it was therapeutic, I suppose.
Yeah,
It was what beckoning of the end was what stopped me. If I didn't have a band to do that album, I'm not sure I would be alive now. I just sung about what I wanted, which was mostly depression, and
yeah,
was trying to understand myself on that album. I was trying to understand why those there's lyrics on there like I haven't thought about any of these, but wind blows through the trees, all I see is pain. It sounds weird, but it's like I remember where I was in a park and I was sitting down, I had a few fucking beers somewhere. It was a really sunny day, it was fucking gorgeous. And I remember looking at the trees, going, look how beautiful they are as they're swaying in the wind on this beautiful sunny day. And I was just sitting there thinking, why do I feel so fucking depressed when there's all this
mm,
beauty? And so those lyrics are all about me trying to understand why I was going through what I was going through. So that album was therapy for me.
wow, yeah. Um, okay. Fistful of Gravy.
So after the Mark Dacon thing, I just would not commit to having an engineer until I saw something from them. So that was just a test.
Okay, so we'll call it Test.
So,
All right then, and then Bring Out Your Dead.
um, it was educational.
Okay.
It's a great
Wish to
album.
elaborate?
They're all great albums in their own way, and they're all very different. The one thing I didn't want to do was repeat the same album. I love
Mm,
AC/DC and I love Iron Maiden, and but I wanted to be more like. I'm not even saying I like the way they did it necessarily, but I wanted to be more like Megadeth and Metallica in the sense where they would take more of a leap of faith and try different things. I wanted to be like that. So all the if you listen to Fear Inside, No Visible Scars, Breaking Off the End and Bring Out Your Dead. They're all very four different albums, but there's a thread that makes them all 54.
Mm,
There is
mm.
something. It's
Yeah.
not like you two going from something on Rattle and Hum to Discotheque, which was entirely different. There is a thread that keeps them all 54-y, but
Yeah.
54 was, I think Bring Out Your Dead was educational for all of us for various reasons. And obviously it I think it contributed to the destruction of the band in the end.
Okay, so we've got adventurous, tragic, therapeutic, test, and then educational. So then brings me to my last point and question is one word then to maybe start describing this upcoming new album. What do you think that might be?
Miracle.
Mm, okay. Yeah,
It's a miracle.
nice.
Really.
Yeah. So you've gone from adventure to miracle.